Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. It's 9:05 a.m. My name is Ty Mentzer, Chair of the Board. My left Vice Chair, Commissioner Wayne Fournier, Commissioner Emily Klaus. On Zoom, Commissioner Carolina Mejia and Commissioner Rachel Grant. County Manager Leonard Hernandez, Assistant County Managers Jennifer Walker and Josh Cummings, and Clerk of the Board Amy Davis. Our meeting will be recorded and posted to the Thurston County YouTube channel within 24 hours. Written public comment may be received up to 2 hours in advance of the meeting and distributed to the Board of County Commissioners. Action may be taken at this meeting. First up is a review of this agenda. It's a second review for this afternoon's agenda, and I'll ask the clerk of the board to highlight any changes or follow-ups we needed.
The only change and follow-up needed today is on consent item 3. That is the resolution of findings and determinations for Long Lake Management District number 25 as a result of last Tuesday's public hearing. And public health is here too.
Okay, yeah, there were quite a few questions and issues to be potentially addressed. So if we could have public health come up to. So we're looking at item 3 on the consent agenda, which would be a resolution of findings and determinations. And we did have a public hearing, as Amy said last week, and there were questions about this, that, and the other. I don't know how you want to handle this, Dr. Brightheit.
So we have, sorry to interrupt, we have Susan is running upstairs. This happened super fast, so she's grabbing her notes. She'll be back
Okay.
down in just a couple of seconds. We have a PowerPoint that we're going to bring up on the screen. And then also in the audience, we have Mike Oshner from the Long Lake Management District. So County Manager, any thoughts on next steps?
I like your thoughts, Assistant. And so why don't you start with the positive email we received from City of Lacey.
Great. So start there. Come on up, Mike, if you'd like.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I think one of the first things for the commissioners to recall is, we're still working through this new formation of the lake management districts being managed in public health. And there's two main splits to the way that this works, is that county through public health manages the internal administrative work. That's what Stuart does. And the external communication and partnership relationship is done by the lake management districts themselves. And that's why Mike is here. What is your title at the LMD?
I'm the chairman of the steering committee.
So as the chairman of the steering committee, they're the ones that engage with the external partners and stakeholders and other lake members, such as the City of Lacey. We did receive an email this morning in regards to the comments that Jennifer Burbage provided from the City of Lacey. And she relayed back to us that they had productive dialogue and they will be supporting the petition going forward. She did not understand that the rates wouldn't be set at this meeting, but they will be set at a later time. So there's still time for them to engage on their upcoming October 23rd meeting with Mike, I believe, to discuss swimmers days and boaters days and the rates. So long story short, City of Lacey is supportive of the petition.
So why don't we go ahead and if you want to walk through, Ethan, looks like you got this on.
I do.
You want to walk through the presentation, and then of course, we really appreciate presentation from Long Lake Management District being here so that they can help engage on any questions that the commissioners may have about public comment. Take it away, Susan.
Morning, everyone. Susan Long, Environmental Health Division Director with Public Health and Social Services. So just a little recap of how we got here. The resolution of intent to form LMD number 25 passed on August 5th. The public hearing on proposed resolution findings and conducted on September 30th. There was public comment. At that time, the board wanted more time to review those public comments, which leads us to today's meeting.
Chair, I think after invitations were mailed to all stakeholders and all members of the district in September of 2024, using the exact same mailing list that Public Health used for the notice of the public hearing on September 30th. So everyone was notified in September of 2024. We hold a monthly meeting that has time for public comment. The agenda for that meeting is posted on our Facebook page and our website each month. And our meetings take place at the Lacey Firehouse. So we welcome any and all that are there that would like to contribute or comment or be a part of the conversation. And what else is on this slide? And I know that there's some bounce backs, so I don't want to jump too far ahead. Each neighborhood does have 2 seats on the steering committee, as does in perpetuity the city of Lacey and the Department of Fish and Wildlife. The city of Lacey has not actively participated in their seat on the board since 2017. However, Ms. Burbridge does share that she plans to join and be part of that space. Fish and Wildlife has not participated to this point.
Can I ask, when you say every neighborhood, how many neighborhoods do you have delineated?
There's 1,400 total homes in the district. I believe there's 8 homeowners associations, 310 or so homes on direct waterfront impacted, as well as the city of Lacey, 2 developments, and Department of Fish and Wildlife with the boat launch.
And in this, maybe you're gonna get there, but in this new proposal, are there neighborhoods being added that were not previously part?
Nope. Everybody that's part of the district has been part of the district since its inception. We've made no changes to the district boundaries and no changes to the funding and fee structure ever, other than percentage increase based on inflation. I think also really important is that more than once, we've actually refunded money back to folks and done rate reductions in times that we've been able to achieve the work plan without utilizing all of the funds available.
That's to your point in outreach and communication, that you've been communicating to all members, that there are no new members since September of 2024.
Correct.
There have been members added,
No,
not since September.
no new member that we have never changed the boundaries of the LMD since the 1980s when it came to be.
Mr. Meser asked how many neighborhoods there are. And then, because you said every neighborhood has at least 2 large, or 2 seat, every neighborhood has 2 seats. So how many neighborhoods are there? And then have there been any neighborhoods that have been looking to leave? Or has that ever been?
It's never been a discussion.
And how many neighborhoods are there?
I believe there's 9 different subsections that each have 2 representatives that are voting.
Keep going and catch up.
I know is there another slide for me, or I've got other things I can share? I don't want to.
Yes, there's another.
Okay,
I move on?
sure.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay,
Again. Can we advance the slide 1, please?
oh, that's not the right way. Perfect. Thank you. So just some general themes of the public comments that we received. Stakeholders felt they did not receive the information in time. They also felt that they did not have opportunity to provide input into the process until now, and some felt the fee structure was inequitable. City of Lacey specifically had questions about the assessment rates for swimmer and boater days, and also felt they weren't involved in the process until now. Cannon Grove Division 5 HOA did not believe they should be included in the rules of assessment because they don't have access to the lake. Lake Forest community, there were some concerns among the citizens that the rates were not equitable to the benefits they were receiving. We did receive comment just about the time the public hearing is held and that it's difficult to provide comment. Additionally, people wanted information about how the rates were determined. And those were some of the general comments that we received.
And I think important notation, City of Lacey, I think we're in a very positive place. The swimmer days that we utilize for the City of Lacey came from the City of Lacey in 2009 and have not been changed since then. There's been no adjustments, but we are in active conversation with Ms. Burbridge. Cantor Grove Division 5, we have reviewed the deed that they share with the rest of Cantor Grove, and we will exempt them from assessments because they choose not to have access to their community park. Lake Forest, I think, is very important that Mr. Booth represented, that he speaks for Lake Forest. I've connected with their neighborhood representative who says the board has voted against Mr. Booth's contributions to comment, and the community as a whole is supportive and their HOA is supportive. And they do have 2 seats on our board, and they did vote in favor with the 1 seat that is filled of the current assessments.
Do you have that like in a document or anything?
We can share it in minutes. They have 2 seats. 1 has been vacant as long as I've been involved in leadership on the committee. The other one is represented and says that Mr. Booth does not speak on behalf of the community. But we are open to conversation, and I think important to share that we regularly have reviewed assessments and exemptions when lake levels have changed, access has changed, the environment has changed.
I have 2 questions. So the first one, I was actually gonna ask if there are any vacancies, and you said there was 1 vacancy from Lake Forest. Are
There
there other vacancies right now?
I believe there's a total of 4 vacant seats. I don't want to speak with the complete affirmation. I believe there are 4.
Okay. Are those typically pretty hard to fill, or do they rotate pretty quickly when they're vacant?
Some communities are very hard to fill, others are always full. One of the vacant seats currently is an at-large seat because we did have some communities that had more desire to serve than others, and added about 3 years ago 2 at-large seats to accommodate one that wanted to be part, and then still have room for growth. I
Okay.
think important to share, I have owned my home for about 18 years and wasn't actively involved in the LMD for the first half of that time period, and then got really frustrated with the algae levels and the lake being closed half the summer. And my approach to it was to raise my hand and volunteer and get involved, as opposed to get frustrated or upset, which is why I'm here and why I'm in the chair that I'm in.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your engagement. My other question was, slide 3 talks about, or wait, sorry. Slide 4 says that the City of Lacey gave feedback that they weren't aware of the assessment rate updates for swimmer and boater days until they received public hearing notice. But then the next slide talks about conversations with Jennifer, and it sounds like communications are flowing smoothly now. But was there just like, hey, we received feedback, we need to reach out and connect with them, or how did that happen?
The City of Lacey was actively involved and actually sent a representative to committee meetings until about 2019, when some staffing changes happened. Since then, they haven't been present, and we understand from Jennifer that communications and mailed notices were being routed somewhere else. And now they're to her, and she plans to be involved, and we're excited to have her as an active member at the table.
Okay.
Still sending them to Lacey, but Lacey.
They still go to Lacey. I don't know where they were getting routed before. Now they're getting routed to her, and she's the right person to have them, which is fantastic. And we sincerely value their participation and having them be a part. And her words, I'm not the one that met with her. It was another steering committee member, but said that she is excited to be involved, fully supportive of the LMD, and happy to have the conversation. Her question was originally, where did the swimmer and boater days come from? They actually came from Lacey. Lacey identified them, but it was before her time and before my time, and probably before a lot of other people's time.
Okay.
But the swimmer days number has not changed since at least 2012.
What is, I don't understand what that means. What's a swimmer or boater day and how does it relate to the LMD?
Yeah, so assessments for homeowners are based on dwellings and footage of shoreline. For the boat launch, for Fish and Wildlife, and for the park, it's based on number of swimmer days or number of boater days. So it's based on estimated usage.
That's how, so it just goes into how they get charged,
Correct,
and they were not sure how you came up with the number of
Correct.
days, or that's what they're saying.
correct.
Okay. But well, is that true for, well, I'm thinking of a different LMD, so I will forget about that. But-
Oh,
Well, I mean, there's
how that.
there's
that comes up in other-
WDFW that's a big, like, on one of the other lakes, and I didn't realize that they were being charged by boater days. This is the first time I've ever heard of this. I thought they got charged based on property assessment or something different. I'm not ever remembering hearing about schooner boater days.
Fish and Wildlife is assessed based on the estimated number of boater days or number of boats launched.
That's true for all LMDs, or just, is that a negotiated?
I can't speak for the other LMDs. I can say from a percentage of funding structure, we are one of the lower percentages of the total fund that comes from Fish and Wildlife compared to others. But we're also one of the larger lakes and more frequently used lakes in the county.
Okay.
Can you speak to the Counter Grove Division HOA sentence there, where like they were saying they don't have access to the lake?
And that is valid, and we have sent Stewart the request to remove them from the tax rolls. We reviewed the deed to their HOA park, which is a unique situation that essentially says that division can have access if they negotiate and pay extra into the HOA, which they choose not to do, so we've exempted them and removed them from the district.
Okay, but they had been on there for the last 40 years?
I believe they have.
Thank you.
Do they know that they're being removed?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, and I believe her name is Sharon, has also sent a note saying, thank you for the quick response, appreciated the engagement.
So, to close out, our recommendation, and this is really the LMD's recommendation, is to approve the resolution as written and direct the Long Lake Management District Steering Committee to enter into negotiations with the City of Lacey Parks and Recreation and Lake Forest Homeowners Association on their current proposed fees.
So so what's going on with that? Like the Lake Forest? What's the issue there? When it says enter into negotiation on their fees?
Go back to the slide.
We are open to conversation. The conversations we've had with their named representative from their HOA says that there's currently nothing to talk about. But we are open to conversation, and we entertain conversation about fees or exemptions all the time. We had a property that ended up submerged this year and immediately removed them from the rolls. So the steering committee is open to looking out for what's best for the lake, for the community, for the members of the district.
And that can be adjusted along the way.
It can.
And this is the one where Mr. Booth came up, he had some statements to say, and then you're telling us that the HOA, he doesn't actually represent the
Correct.
community. They've got a different statement, you've got it in writing, that they have representatives that are saying different things than the one individual.
Yeah, they have a voting member on our
You
board.
guys are
they
open to
picked.
continuing the conversation and exploring if they actually have concerns.
100%.
Okay, so if we follow this recommendation, we just approve all we gotta do is approve the item as it's stated in the consent agenda, in the draft agenda.
And then I believe today or tomorrow, environmental health sends out ballots that are sent to all members of the district, and the vote is calculated based on what is paid into the district.
Out of
Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Mejia.
Well, no, go ahead with your question. I
My
just have a
Yeah.
comment.
On boater days, like, what does that mean? Cause I mean, you can go on a boat any day, right? Like, what makes a boater day? Just, is that based on like you're counting the number of boats that typically would
It's
be?
counting boat launches. And very true and real, the biggest source of challenges to the lake is boat launches. We had a milfoil outbreak this year, and the only way milfoil makes it into the lake is on the prop of a boat that's been somewhere else that had milfoil. And for those that have not experienced a milfoil outbreak, it is an absolute instant detriment to the well-being of the lake because it sucks the oxygen out, so it kills the fish and wildlife. And milfoil, when a piece of the plant breaks off, it plants itself again 5 feet away and continues to expand and grow. And when we were doing a different weed treatment, our applicator discovered milfoil that had entered the lake, and we were able to instantly take action and do a treatment of the milfoil this year to prevent what could have been a big problem for the lake.
I mean, there's a public awareness there too. So if you're a boater, clean up your props.
And the LMD has purchased and created signs, and usually at the beginning of each season, we have volunteers that spend time at the boat launch for information that every time you come in or out of a lake, please rinse off your boat. Please make sure you get rid of anything it may be bringing or taking with it to not introduce it to a new place.
Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to confirm, is this on consent items?
Yes.
So I guess I just have to disclose to the board and request that this be moved to department items. That I do have, one of the reasons I abstained was because I was trying to find out if I had family members that lived within the LMD. And so I am disclosing to the board now that I have confirmed that I have family members that do live within the range of the LMD and this proposal. And so I will be abstaining.
Okay, so if we could remove item 3, if that's, Friday, it would be an opportunity to briefly say that kind of what Mike said that we addressed. It'd be a nice opportunity to say a couple of the things that we're doing to address the public comment directly with regard to Canterbury and Lake Forest, so.
And the city of Lacey.
And City of Lake, so that would fit, I think, pretty well. All right, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
I'm satisfied. The Canterbury one was the one I was the most, or Canter Grove, I should say.
Canter Grove.
Was the one I was personally most concerned about. And I had some questions on the Lacey issue. The way I've gone, in the past, I've gone way down in the weeds on the different methodologies for charging up. And so, I mean, I understand the kind of trade-offs that are made there. So I wasn't that concerned because I know you guys have been around a long time and it sort of worked out a reasonable system. But that is interesting that they've been part of that charge, that part of that piece and without access.
From the best I can tell, it used to be one HOA that was subdivided and divided multiple times during some transition before my time, but in that process, that deed is very unique, that it essentially says this subdivision can have access if they negotiate it and pay for it. And they have confirmed that they are not paying for it.
Yeah, okay, well, it's good to get that through.
Yeah, no, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions for the team on Long Lake? All right, thank you.
Thanks for coming in, Mike.
Thank you.
Anything else to address on the agenda, Madam Clerk, for follow-up? Any other questions from the board on today's agenda? Okay. Then that'll bring us to an executive session. This is pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions, or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency governing body or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. And one I and double I there, I2, litigation that the agency reasonably believes may be commenced by or against the agency's governing body or member acting in an official capacity. 20 minutes is allocated. It is 9:29. We'll go into executive session until 9:50. And board action may follow. It's 9:58. We completed our executive session at 9:56, and the next item is item 3, 2026-27 biennial budget target review. Commissioner Mejia.
Chair, I would like to request, if you'll indulge me, a 10 to 15-minute break, please.
At 9:58, 10:10.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll be back at 10:10. We'll be in recess. It's 10:12 a.m. and we're picking back up with item 3 on the work session agenda regarding the biennial budget target review. County Manager.
Thank you so much, Chair and Commissioners, and all of guests here in the room. As requested by the board, we have a couple documents before you. The first one is entitled 2026-27 Biennium General Fund Budget Target Reduction Scenarios. I want to start by thanking the budget team and our office and department staff for all their work for the last several weeks, and special thanks to the commissioners for really spending the time and energy to tackle the budget deficit. We have a document here that outlined where we started from in the 2026 estimate base budget. Column B is the 26% reduction equaling just over 36 million. Those impacts to departments, what their budgets would be. Then over the course of several weeks, the board has taken several different steps and actions in a series of decisions about reducing expenditures and identifying potentially new revenue. The board identified about $19.7 million. And in that process, column D represents the board's decision to say, let's take 10 million of that 19.7 and apply it equally across to departments based on the percentage of general fund budget. Then column E represents 9.7, which was a document presented by the chair, called the chair's proposal, of how to target restorations of departments and offices budgets at 9.7 million. Column F represents the budget team's tracking of reversion rates since departments and offices have slowed their spending. That could be up to 9 to 10 million. So the board decided anything over 5 million would be used for additional targeted restorations. And so we have populated 5 million, and there was discussion and direction given to staff on how to apply that. Then we get to G, where we look at the total restorations from columns D, E, and F. The new estimated 2026 base budget for offices and departments based on the work that the board has taken. And then I is a new adjusted target after restorations. What this document represents is the hard work of staff keeping track with the commissioner's decisions and taking those decisions and working them through. We have a mix of some revenue and some expenditure reductions. And in many cases, those are not across the board applications. So there was a lot of back work that had to be done to make sure that we were tracking how these could be applied across the board. The second document represents some operational considerations in columns I and J that are suggestions to the board in how to apply some of the restorations. Summer, do you want to go over the kind of main components of those?
Sure, so there were some, I guess, reductions or targets that were identified that could be shifted to support the operational costs of emergency management and HR. So we basically backed out the prior board direction on reductions and kind of shifted some of those costs around. And you can see that clearly in column I, it's netting out to 0. And in J, column J, the new estimated base budget compared to H on your prior sheet would be slightly different for the 4 office departments that are identified to the board. The County Commissioners Fund and Office, the non-departmental fund, countywide services, and then emergency management and HR are listed there.
You say it's a reduction of a reduction, so
Yeah.
kind of sort of confusing there, but. So the beneficiary of that would be work needed in HR and then taking money out of restorations from the commissioner's office and EMS.
Right, specifically,
And
non-departmental, since we've determined that we don't need some of the restorations in that fund.
In restorations in the fund.
Non-departmental.
Okay, questions for Summer on this spreadsheet?
That final number that we landed on, or well, that is being suggested right here for emergency management. Can you explain how that's something that we can live with? I mean, it's still,
Yeah, it is,
so we get to that number and like, how can we be confident that that number still works for our community and
Well, I will say that when Ben submitted the proposals he submitted to, the first was the full reduction and how he would meet that target, and it left basically one person in emergency management. The second scenario was a reduction target of 330,000, and that resulted in 2.65 positions being unfunded, and really would be 2 positions being unfunded. The other position would be shifting over full-time and a portion of Ben full-time into Medic 1. And so this is providing additional revenue, or I would say, excuse me, additional reduction to the 330. So it's even less of a target for him, while still trying to address the issues that we were having in HR, where they were looking at 11 FTEs and 4 FTEs being unfunded.
I think, Commissioner, what we could say is all our departments and offices would love and need not to have any reductions. So the impact, we are working to try to share those impacts operationally the best we can. I think in prior conversations, it would be great once this is underway for us to engage in a grow back plan with the commission to determine how do we strategically identify which offices and departments are priorities to grow back. I mean, all of them are, but what's the sequencing of that as we look to hopefully have a better fiscal year in 26 and in 27. But what we have before you are some operational recommendations.
Okay. Commissioner McGee.
Thank you. So when would we start the discussions of a grow back plan?
I would say we would give the budget team maybe several weeks and we can start that in early November. And what we're looking here is if we just go to the presentation, I think it's important to look at some of the timeline dynamics that we have. Even the next slide, please. Yep. So as this high-level timeline shows, proud of the new budget team for identifying in October some revenue expenditure concerns in the general fund. And since then, it's been an organizational effort to work this through. All the time we spent from that time providing briefings and updates to the board almost every single month, and sometimes multiple times in a month, talk this through. And I think this is pretty self-explanatory. The part that is really important, and I know we'll be talking about in our next item, the budget calendar, is the last component where we look at the October, November, and December dates and the milestones that we have to meet and the work that needs to be accomplished with our offices and departments and them receiving their new base target numbers and then working with the budget team to get those entered so that we can process the work that's needed for the 26-27 budget. Summer, is there anything you want to point out about the timeline?
Just that it's very compressed, and our ability to shift dates, are really limited right now. We might have about a week of playtime in the schedule. And, it's not recommended that we begin the budget process until the RCW report is received. So those are the only two main things.
Yeah, by statute, we need to wait for that, and we know that the auditors team is diligently working on that. We go to the next slide. There was a question about some of the
Remember the
numbers.
timeline on the RCW report?
The last update we had is we think it might be submitted today, but I know that the auditors team is working with the budget team and HR on some of the information and data verifications, because the first report that was identified had some missing or incorrect information. And the auditors team is doing a great job, a diligent job of making sure all that information is rounded up. So yeah, we look, if not today, we look to have it very soon. So we just put up there, you know, the real is what we've identified as the estimated base budget of 160.808, and we were rounding that up to 161. Now there's some conversations about what's the number, and then the projected revenue was at 124 at the point in time in August when we captured it, 0.794. We were saying 125. And then the structural deficit, we were looking at a 36.014 or 36 million. So that's the information we were working off of and working through. And we've identified revenue and capacity to provide some initial relief of reductions of 19.7. And then of course the board wanted to consider additional allocation of reversion up to 5 million.
So when we're considering reallocation of reversion funds and things like that to fill a structural deficit, and that doesn't fix the deficit, that just punts the discussion to next year and puts us in the same position very shortly, where we're going to be having the same exercise, the same discussion, going through all this heartache again to try to cut back expenses because we didn't fix the problem. Just making sure that's all clear and understood. Yeah, well, you kick the can down the road.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's not only the reversion that creates that dynamic, but it's also some of these other areas where we've identified revenue, which I'm very happy the team has done, but a lot of this is just one-time revenue. So Commissioner Fournier is right, and it extends beyond the reversion.
And it sets us, I mean, I want to be really clear, we are setting aside our budget policy that I helped draft with Robin back in 2020. And we're doing it because of the severity and the impacts that we're hearing from our elected offices and community members, but that it comes at a risk and a cost. And I'm glad my seatmates are recognizing that, because I just want to be really clear. I mean, what you're saying is real, Commissioner Fournier. So, I've heard a lot of optimistic projections. I hope those are true, crossing my fingers, but I don't have that same optimism that some of my fellow elected officials have about where the economy will go in 2026. And we could be, as you say, kicking the can down the road, or at least part of it. I mean, there's clearly things here that are helping right the ship, so I don't want to minimize that, but, and again, I think it was an unreasonable thing to completely get our hands around in one year. So that's why I'm willing to make the decisions that we've made. And we've also come out with some new things that, that have their own costs in the community, like the 2015 issue, I mean, that's not kicking the can down the road. That's making a hard decision, but there are consequences to that, to families, to us, to the county, to our credibility. So, you know, we just have to, we're balancing all of those different factors and doing our very best to try to minimize community impact to a very tough budget.
I don't want to, I'm not trying to disparage the work by saying kicking the can down the road, but I don't want to budget just on hope that things are gonna get better, because I don't share any kind of optimism towards, you know, the economic condition and so but I do recognize, like you're saying, like this isn't the end of the conversation. This needs to be the beginning of the conversation. And I hope that everybody, having gone through this exercise, maybe, you know, we get our skin has to get a little thicker. You know, some of these things that are, you know, there's decisions that have emotions that are based, that are attached to them. And there should, you know, like everything needs to be considered. And sometimes it's hard when the community, you know, rustles back and we have to explain things, but you know, we get better at this as we go along. But yeah, this is not the end of the conversation. And I hope that is something that the community understands.
I have a question.
Klaus?
Thank you. I have a question about the RCW report. I just heard this morning in my conversation with the county manager and budget staff about the RCW report and how we're waiting on that from the auditor's office. What is that required for exactly? Like, do we need that report in order to make this motion today to approve the preliminary budget?
No, the motion today isn't to approve the preliminary budget. It's to approve preliminary general fund budget targets.
Okay.
We do need the RCW report to initiate the budget process by statute. So it's tomorrow's conversation that if, and I just want to be clear that it's a team effort, that what we're working on with TC Connect and everything else. Auditor staff are working very hard and diligently to work that through. If we can't get it by tomorrow, then we'll push tomorrow's calendar date back to possibly next week.
That's the one on this budget calendar.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in detail as next item.
But having the target is really important for the offices and departments.
Yeah, this is what we would normally just send out as the maintenance level budget. Would have been sent out a long time ago, but these aren't normal times with the deficit that we're working through. It's the process we've had to go through. And I think the board has done an outstanding job of working with the entire organization to identify opportunities to minimize the impact as we can. Does it address everything to Commissioner Fournier's point? No. There will still be issues we have to look at in 2027. We go to the next slide. So here's just a little roundup. Again, we have some of the key dates there. We accept the work completed to lessen the financial impacts on departments and offices, approve the newly adjusted targets and reductions to some departments and offices, and then provide clear direction to budget staff to create preliminary budget, activate the accompanying legal notices and process, obviously once we get the RCW report. And then staff are working to implement board direction from July 22nd meeting with no new policy funding for 26-27 to include general fund additions, positions, reclasses, or additional general fund expenditure impact. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Okay, questions on calendar steps?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
So preliminary general fund budget targets that we're approving are for the biennial budget 26 and 27, but we've only had the opportunity to really work through what 2026 looks like so far. And we know that a lot of this is one-time funds. So is the assumption that the 2027 budget is gonna be the same as the 26 budget for now?
Yes.
Okay,
Then we would come back in our commitment is to come back often in 26.
okay.
There are a couple of direction the board has given to do a 6-month touch base on some of the revenues. We would be doing it probably on a monthly basis. Our hope is that the slow to little growth that's taking place in sales and property tax over time starts to change. Whether it changes to the good or to the bad, we'll be back sitting with the board to look at what do we need to do for 2027 if there's not significant movement in some of those areas.
Okay,
We're projecting right now a $14 million issue in 2027. But I think we want to look at how the board and offices and departments activate some of their fees and revenue ideas that they put forward. Determine, does that number stay where it's at, or does it grow, or does it lessen? And then, of course, that would change the interaction we're having with the board, and what we'll sit down together as a group to talk about what that looks like.
okay. And the budget that we are approving today is the supplemental sheet, not the first sheet, right?
That's our recommendation, would be to look at the new adjusted targets, and approve those.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this? Does someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the preliminary general fund budget targets for offices and departments for development of the preliminary 2026-27 biennial budget targets.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve, and it would essentially be the supplemental spreadsheet. That's been proposed. Any discussion on this motion? Commissioner Klaus, saw your hand.
The two lines for the sheriff's office, on the first sheet, it says that the combined reinstatement for law and corrections will be at the sheriff's discretion, so the combined cut that he needs to work through with his team is 1.292 million. Is that right? That can be applied to either law or corrections?
Add up to 2.5.
Oh, so those two lines together?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
You could shift them, you could shift
Okay.
between those if if that seemed more operationally efficient from his perspective.
Okay.
Commissioner Grant,
Yep. Good morning, everybody. I'm just gonna read my notes. So for me, thank you, Chair. I just want to start out by saying thank you to our budget and finance staff for all their hard work. I know how much time and effort has gone into this process, and your professionalism and your commitment have been amazing. With that said, I'm going to be voting no on the motion before us today. I can't, in good conscience at this point, support a preliminary budget that reduces funding for public safety. Superior Court and the Sheriff's Office provide essential services that protect and uphold justice, and they're not areas that I can afford or we can afford to cut. So if reductions must occur, they should start in the areas with less direct impact on public safety and court operations. I also, have some concerns about the approach we use to develop the targets. Applying cuts evenly across all offices doesn't really reflect the difference between discretionary and non-discretionary funding. Some departments have mandated services that can't be reduced without real harm to the public and to the people. And I felt like we should have used a more thoughtful and transparent approach before finalizing those targets. And then finally, I just want to be transparent that I'm just not yet and don't yet share the same understanding of the $36 million structural deficit. And for that reason, while I deeply respect the work of all the staff, I'm not going to support these preliminary budget targets today. And that's it for me.
Commissioner Grant, did you come up with an alternate proposal on, you're mentioning, the sheriffs and Superior Court? Is there an alternate proposal that you are proposing?
No. I think that, to be honest, from the time that I met yesterday at 4 o'clock, I had to drive to Ellensburg. I have not brought forward a different proposal. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen after we had the meetings yesterday. I would be interested in discussing that. And maybe that's something, we can do when we get to this next step. But at this point, as the motion and as the targets are laid out, I just can't support it at this moment.
I would point out that of the $24 million adjustments to the original 24.5, only 10 was applied across the board. The other 14.5 were applied in a targeted way and for exactly the reasons you described. I actually got some communications from elected officials who were very happy to see that for the first time, because that hasn't always been how the board's approached cuts. So I just want to make that clear that only the first 10 of 24.5 million of restorations were applied across the board. So I have to push back on that characterization. Commissioner Fournier.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I wouldn't want to characterize this as that type of kind of lazy budgeting that is suggested where it's just broad cuts evenly across, there was a fine tooth comb gone over many times in meetings with the public, with individual team members on the budget team. So like, I don't share that characterization of this process at all. I'm really, I look forward to targeted restructuring. I really, I appreciate emergency management's cooperation in helping us get to the targets that we really need to help close the gap. And I want to advocate strongly for, finding funds as we move forward to bring that shop back whole. It's a very important part of our service delivery. So those are going to be very important discussions.
I would also comment that, as far as the law enforcement, Sheriff's Office, $13.3 million of cuts were reduced to 2.5. That was hearing loud and clear and understanding very, clearly by the board, the importance of public safety and the public safety sales tax and all those considerations. So, and that was a number that the sheriff said he thought he could manage with minimal community impact, all things considered. So, I do think that the concerns that you're raising, Commissioner Grant, were addressed by the board. Any other discussion on the motion?
I have,
Commissioner Klaus?
I know we really have no choice but to make these tough calls, but I'm looking at the budget that we're talking about approving now, and I'm concerned about the clerk's office and the Superior Court budget. Just knowing that there's gonna be a continued impact on those offices, and cutting them when I'm glad that we were able to find a way to reduce the cuts to the sheriff's office. I think that's really key, like that's a vital component of the system. But all of those justice partners work together, and that's a big cut to the clerk's office. And I don't know that they can sustain that. They already have a lot of things that they've had to cut in recent years, and the public's not getting the service that they once were. And I'm just really concerned about that significant cut to their budget.
I'm most concerned myself about the prosecuting attorney, Superior Court, and auditor, and those would be when we work on a grow back plan, those are going to be my suggestions for places to restore funding if we have it. So, because there's no good place at this point, there's no good place to apply $11.5 million of cuts to our very lean operations.
I would say around the same thing. My priorities for a grow back plan would be the auditor's office, Superior Court, and the sheriff's office. So.
I think for me, I don't disagree with all of those sentiments, but the clerk's office is where all of that stuff gets processed. So if we're finding ways to grow back the offices that are going to continue perpetuating either the current workload in the clerk's office or an increased workload in the clerk's office, then we're gonna need a grow back plan for that office too, because that's where all of that information is stored. I think they get kind of pushed to the sidelines a lot, and that's critical to the operations of the county. That's really where the public comes in when they come into the court. If they're not there for a hearing, they're typically there to go to the clerk's office to get something. I know I've been there many times to get documents, and it's just, that's like a crucial component of the system that I think we don't see as much of. So I'm concerned about that. I would like to include, when we start having conversations about the grow back plan, I think that we should have like robust discussions about how these justice and safety partners work together and how certain cuts in some areas might change, the dynamic in other areas. So they all kind of work together, and I want to make sure that we're not disproportionately cutting offices that will have to carry the workload. So that's just something I want to think about.
Definitely agree that it's such an interrelated system. It's sometimes hard to know what the ripple effects and connections are. And we have that dynamic with public defense issue, which is, obviously a monkey wrench of sorts into our budget situation, and the timing and not knowing how other cuts are going to affect. It's going to be something that we can turn the dials on. I mean, we could certainly, it may be, to your point, Commissioner Klaus, that these cuts, if we're not able to restore them, the public defender's caseloads are reduced by, without having to add attorneys. And then we can completely adjust the timing of that 7-year plan that we laid out. And we may not need all of those, because, I hope that's not true, because I know the system overall needs to grow. But I think that goes to your point, that it's hard to know how the different changes will affect the different pieces of the system, because they all connect in the law and justice world, which is 75% of our general fund.
Sure, could I add something?
Yes.
I think that all of the offices and departments are looking forward to that grow back conversation. I would say that there are there's many departments and some offices that are taking nearly a 20% reduction in their targets for the cuts. But this is tough, and none of this is done lightly, and these are hard times. But being judicious with our budgets, hoping for the best, but planning for the real is good government. So while these are hard times, what the board is engaged in, fiscally responsible, good government is what the citizens, I think, and residents of Thurston County are looking for. So hard times, but this is good government.
I have another.
Yes.
So, something I'm curious about, maybe, I don't know, maybe if we need a legal opinion or if anyone in the room already knows this, but the biennial budget development calendar, I understand that we've adopted an alternate calendar in alignment with RCW 3640.071. That gives us the authority to do that, but when we approve the budget calendar initially, which happens like way earlier in the year, that's when we adopt the alternate calendar dates. And I have concerns about changing the calendar dates so many times when we adopted the budget calendar earlier in the year. And that's something that I actually just learned last week when I took a class on the fundamentals of budgeting with MRSC. And we talked about an alternate calendar and how that gets adopted. And so I have concerns about that.
Wasn't it the commissioners that created, all the changes, because we did not make the decisions that we needed to make on the timeline that would have allowed us to follow the original
I
calendar?
don't know if this is germane to the motion. Is it? Cause I think that might be off topic. We have a motion on the table.
Yeah, is there, that's fair. Let me conclude discussion on the motion, and then we can address any other budget related topics. Any other discussion on this motion that's been made? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That motion carries 3-2. So on the point of the calendar, it seemed to me like the reason we had to move dates was because of us, not because of anything else. And I don't know how staff can force the commissioners to make decisions.
Yeah.
And commissioners have several times asked for a delay on that timeline because they needed more time to review stuff, review documents. And so, but also, the budget development calendar in previous years has been changed due to a multiple of factors. And so it's not new for a budget development calendar to be changed.
What is the nature of your concern, Commissioner Klaus? I mean,
Just a procedural concern. I mean, we talk a lot about process and making sure we're doing things the right way and, yeah, I just am worried that it might be, I mean, I think it's just a procedural concern. I don't think that by statute we're committed, we have to be committed to the alternate budget calendar, but it just makes sense if we adopt one to stick with it. I looked into the statute. It doesn't, it's not very clear on how alternate budget calendars get approved and how much we are confined to that initial approval. But it was just a concern that I had, as I was going through the documents that we had, and I've seen so many iterations of the budget development calendar, and I wasn't sure if we're in compliance with the statute by changing it throughout the year.
Zach?
It's not something I would hold up the process for.
I did have a conversation with the PAO's office yesterday about the budget calendar. There were no concerns. The only concern was the date for December 1st for public hearing. So the alternate calendar allows us to change the calendar dates, and then there are things out of our control, right? Like we all know TC Connect is a challenge, continues to be a challenge. So we need to have the flexibility to change the dates because there are some things that we just can't get done.
I would say also, Summer, I appreciate the hard work and flexibility that the budget office has done in aligning with RCW while also being flexible to commissioners' requests for more time and more information.
Thank you.
so,
Yeah, and this is, the board gave, authorized, authority to the county manager to work with the budget team, making adjustments as long as it was reported out, and so that's what we're doing today. Reporting out, identifying some of the changes, as mentioned, working with our auditor team on the RCW report as a team effort, and they're doing hard work on that as we speak. And then identifying the change of the December 2nd date that we originally listed to December 1st. We want to thank the PAO's office, Travis specifically, for working with us to catch that. We've also added a component on here, October 14th, department offices, targets due to the budget team. That's an additional layer of detail that we think is important for the organization. And also for the commissioner to understand that there's a lot of work that has to take place from today till then to get everything loaded up and in. So there's
So we-
no,
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, are we covering this, that next item on the agenda was calendar updates?
Yep, that's effectively it. It's just a report out because the authority's already been given to the county manager to make those adjustments and changes and then report them out to the board.
Okay, any questions on calendar related items?
I have a question. The October 14th date for the department office targets, is that just similar to the exercise we did before where we'll be receiving the information on what they're gonna do with the new?
The targets that the board just approved will be sending to offices and departments, and then they're gonna be working those numbers in with the budget team to get it into this budget system.
And then we'll see that on October 14th. Will that come to us?
No. So then what will happen is as the board, as the budget team prepares the preliminary budget, that'll be what we come before you and talk through.
So that additional layer, you're just putting that in there so that we know that staff is working with departments and offices.
It's a timeframe that the offices and departments are gonna have to work within the budget team as to turn around. It's quite a bit of work and detail that all our office and department budget staff will be working on the budget season. We have delayed some things understandably for decisions for the board to consider, but there's a lot of work backing up and time is now for us to get started on it.
Will we be hearing from the auditors team tomorrow about the RCW report?
We're hoping to hear today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will they be coming to the table to talk to us about it tomorrow?
I believe that they submit the,
I believe in the past, it's been a submission via letter or email to the chair.
yes.
Okay.
And then tomorrow, if we receive it, then we can engage with the preliminary conversations about, let's see here. Yeah, it's the first review of the preliminary budget would be tomorrow.
Okay.
What does that report, what does the report contain?
It's the preliminary budget figures to kick off the budget process. So it would essentially be actuals for revenue and expenditures for the last year, so 2024, and then actual revenue and expenditures through June of this year, and then the remaining budget or the estimates through the duration of this year.
Isn't that the information that was needed to close out last year as well?
Does that connect to that?
Okay.
Well, I have the same question. I mean, you,
There would be a connection to a degree, I would assume, right? If there are any changes in the actual data as input by financial services, it could change some of the figures. So the system, again, is not well across all of the modules, and so that's a challenge. The reports that we pulled from the budget system had some errors and discrepancies that were identified by the auditor's team. And we have made notes of those that have been reported to us as something that we can work towards correcting in the system as we're having these modules rebuilt. So we're just waiting now for them to finish the rest of their review, which is, I think it's generous of them to spend their time that way because the
Absolutely.
system is, it's not where it needs to be.
Yep.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I know that there's some stuff that's out of our control, so I was just hoping that since the auditor's team is working on this, and it's been stated several times they're working so diligently on this, and I just want to know that we can hear from them how it's going. Because sometimes I feel like we talk about offices and what they're working on without bringing them to the table for questions. So I was hoping that maybe there would be an opportunity to touch base with someone from the auditor's office in a public meeting. That report is available.
That's not how we receive that report, as I understand it, right?
historically, that's.
And I would like that opportunity. I guess I'm requesting to like include them in these conversations when we're talking about functions that the auditor's office is performing. Even just having someone available for questions, not necessarily to present to us, but it's good to have that available.
Well, I think it's commissioner's prerogative to meet with the auditor if they have questions.
Yeah, but the open meeting is what I'm like hoping for, that we can have the auditor, someone from the team here to answer questions during our public meetings.
Brandon could be available.
Could we just send them the Zoom link for tomorrow in case there's questions about that?
I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. Whatever has been done in the past, like, that's what I want to know about. I don't want, like,
I
that's,
mean,
like,
I'm not.
this is my first time. What does it look like in the past? So that we're not reinventing new process or adding new layers.
Not reinventing a process, we're having a
No, I'm-
Zoom link provided to an office so that they,
Curious about is how it has been received in the past. That is my
and
question.
we can receive it the same way. I'm just wanting someone available to answer questions during the meeting if we have questions. I don't think that that's a huge deal. It's not reinventing the wheel. I mean, we stopped live streaming, so people can't access the meeting in any way until the following day.
I don't think we stopped live streaming.
I-
Our
it-
system, yeah, our system broke and it's not something that was done. Our system broke and, you know, we've always done, we're posting them online. It's not like we don't want to live stream. We're waiting for the part to come in. So that's,
Yeah, and the point I'm making is not that we intentionally did anything. It's just like, I don't know why this is a huge deal, why we can't just send a Zoom link. I mean, the county manager already kind of nodded that we can do that, so I guess that's the end of that discussion. I just would like the auditor's office to have a link so that they're here for questions.
That's fine.
Thank you.
My question is, what has it looked like in the past? I'm asking, like, you, maybe, who has been here?
I
When
just
that
don't
was-
recall, so I can't
So-
speak on it.
We can send you a video of last year.
I don't recall.
We'll round that up for you. I think yeah, we can round that up for you. That's all we have to talk about on the.
Commissioner McKeon?
Yeah, one of the things that I would like to discuss is a policy for next year on having a travel moratorium. I think that if we are going to be having these cuts and there's going to be cuts, I don't think that we should be having any travel approved from any office or department. That's going to impact the general fund.
Maybe I'm recalling you, but I thought we did it. I thought maybe we talked about it. Did we not do a travel moratorium?
Not.
We just, everybody stopped it because it was painfully obvious that there should be no travel while we're going through budget cuts, or are people still?
There's still travel taking place. We had an item that had a lot of different considerations in the motion. The board felt that there was too much to act on, so then we came back and we took out a lot of those items and made it just about 2025 general fund impacts. Travel was one of those components, so we've never circled back around. So if that's, the board wants to give me direction, we can definitely prep that for a future conversation.
I just think it's just, I mean, the optics and we shouldn't be traveling or no one really at this time. So especially if it's going to impact general fund.
Okay,
So is there direction on that?
tee that up for a future discussion.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. One.
I was gonna say, I agree too.
Okay, good, great. Thank you.
Any other commissioner items? All right, we're adjourned. See everybody at 2 o'clock.